My sister broke all my son's birthday gifts while everyone laughed. Then my father took off his wedding ring and said 4 words that changed our family forever. The first present hit the wall at 3:47 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon in November. My sister Amy grabbed it from my 5-year-old son Tyler's hands, a wrapped box with dinosaurs on the paper, the one from his best friend Lucas, and hurled it across my living room with enough force that the impact left a dent in the drywall. The sound of shattering glass cut through the birthday party like a gunshot. Everyone froze. The other kids, the parents, my wife Sarah. Even the Paw Patrol music playing from the TV seemed to pause. Tyler's eyes went wide. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. He just stood there, holding the second present, staring at the broken glass and shattered plastic scattered across the floor. Before anyone could react, before I could move, before Sarah could speak, before any of the other parents could process what they'd just seen, Amy grabbed another gift from Tyler's pile, a Lego set, the big one, the $120 Jurassic World set Tyler had been asking for since July. She held it over her head like a trophy and smashed it against the hardwood floor. "Amy, what the hell?" I started toward her, but she was already reaching for another present, a book set, the complete Harry Potter illustrated editions his grandmother, Sarah's mother, had spent months finding at estate sales. She ripped the wrapping off and threw the books, one by one. They hit the coffee table, the couch, the wall, pages tearing, spines cracking. Tyler started crying, not tantrum crying, that silent, shocked crying that comes from complete bewilderment, the crying that happens when a child's brain can't process what they're seeing. My Uncle Jerry, Amy's godfather, 63 years old, wearing a Hawaiian shirt and cargo shorts like he always did, started laughing, actually clapping his hands together. "That's hilarious," he wheezed between laughs. "Amy always knows how to liven things up. Never a dull moment with her around." I turned to look at him, certain I'd misheard, certain this was some kind of joke I wasn't getting, but he was genuinely laughing, tears streaming down his face, slapping his knee. "Oh, come on," my mother said, from her perch on the love seat, waving her hand dismissively. She was holding a glass of white wine, always from a box, always more than she should. "It's just stuff. Tyler's too sensitive anyway. Kids these days get so worked up over nothing." I stared at her, at this woman who'd given birth to me 32 years ago, who'd raised me, who was now sitting in my living room watching my son sob while his birthday presents were destroyed and acting like it was an overreaction to be upset. "He's always been dramatic," Mom continued, taking another sip of wine. "Remember his 3rd birthday? He cried for an hour over, what was it, a balloon popping? Something ridiculous. So sensitive." Amy smirked, dropping another shattered gift, a toy car that Lucas's parents had spent real money on. "Kids these days are so soft, can't handle anything." Something inside me went cold, not hot with rage, cold, like ice water in my veins, like something fundamental had shifted and would never shift back. "Everyone out," I said quietly. The room went silent. Even Tyler stopped crying for a second, startled by my tone. "What?" Mom turned to me, her wine glass pausing halfway to her lips. "Don't be ridiculous. We're family. We're celebrating." I said, "Get out. All of you." I looked around the room, except Dad. My father Raymond had been sitting at the dining table the whole time, silent, watching, not laughing, not defending anyone, just sitting there with his hands folded on the table, his face carved from stone. He was 70 years old but looked ancient right now, weathered, like he'd aged a decade in the last 5 minutes. "Honey, you're overreacting," Mom said, setting down her wine with exaggerated care. "Amy was just playing around. It's a joke. You know how she is." "Playing around?" My voice rose despite my attempt to stay calm. "She destroyed my son's birthday, and you're defending her. Again. She's your sister. She's a bully," I snapped, "and you've enabled her our entire lives. Every cruel thing she's ever done, you've excused. Every person she's hurt, you've told to get over it. Every time someone complained, you've made them the problem instead of her." Amy rolled her eyes dramatically. She was 35 years old, 3 years older than me, but she acted like a teenager, always had. "God, you're such a baby, Nathan. It's a few toys. I'll buy him new ones. Will you?" I pulled out my phone. "Because I've been documenting things for months, since August actually. When I finally accepted that this wasn't going to change on its own, the room went quiet. Even Jerry stopped laughing. I opened a folder on my phone. I'd labeled it evidence, but never thought I'd actually use it. Never thought it would come to this, but here we were. "Last Thanksgiving," I said, scrolling through screenshots. "You told everyone at the dinner table that I got fired from my job, that I was unemployed and living off Sarah's income. You said it loudly in front of 20 people, including my boss who we'd invited." Amy's smirk faltered slightly. "Except I didn't get fired. I got promoted. I'd just been promoted to senior project manager the week before. But you lied. You stood there and lied to humiliate me because you couldn't stand seeing me succeed. That was a misunderstanding. misunderstanding. No, it wasn't. I pulled up text messages. I have the texts between you and your friend Melissa, where you specifically said, and I quote, "Can't wait to embarrass Nathan at Thanksgiving. He thinks he's so much better than me with his fancy job. Time to take him down a peg." Mom's face was going pale. That's taken out of context. At Mom's 60th birthday party, I continued, you accidentally spilled an entire glass of red wine on Sarah's dress, the vintage dress her grandmother made, the one she'd been searching for in her grandmother's things for years after she died, the dress that can't be replaced. Sarah was standing next to me now, holding Tyler, who'd buried his face in her shoulder. Her voice was steady but cold. "You laughed when it happened, said oops, and walked away." "I have the text messages," I said, pulling them up. "Messages where you bragged to 3 different friends about ruining Sarah's dress on purpose. You sent a photo of her crying and wrote, 'Mission accomplished.'" Amy's face was going red now. "You're taking everything out of context. You always do this. You always twist things to make me look bad. And last year," I continued, my voice getting quieter but somehow more intense, "when Tyler's first birthday cake got accidentally knocked over right before we were going to sing happy birthday. Remember that?" Mom shifted uncomfortably. "That was an accident. Amy bumped the table. Security footage says otherwise." The room went dead silent. I pulled up a video on my phone, hit play. The footage was grainy, but clear enough. Amy walking past the table where Tyler's birthday cake sat. A custom cake Sarah had spent hours decorating with dinosaurs and volcanoes because Tyler was obsessed with both. In the video, Amy paused, looked around to make sure no one was watching, then deliberately shoved the table hard. The cake toppled off, landed upside down on the floor, completely destroyed. Then she walked away and 30 seconds later came back acting surprised, saying, "Oh no, what happened?" "You pushed it," Sarah said, her voice shaking. "You destroyed our baby's first birthday cake, on purpose." "That video doesn't show anything. It shows you checking to make sure no one was looking before you shoved the table," I said. "And this isn't even everything. I have documentation going back 5 years. Every cruel comment, every lie, every time you've sabotaged something important to me or Sarah or Tyler." "Nathan, you're making this up," Mom said, but her voice lacked conviction. She was looking at Dad now, some unspoken communication passing between them. "No, Margaret," my father's voice cut through the room like a knife. "He's not." Everyone turned to look at him. He'd stood up from the dining table and was walking slowly into the living room. His hands were shaking, but his face was calm, resolved. "I've watched you enable Amy for 35 years, Dad said to Mom, and his voice had a quality I'd never heard before. Not anger, something sadder, something final. "I've watched you excuse every cruel thing she's ever done. I've watched you gaslight our son, and now our grandson, into thinking they're too sensitive, too dramatic, too emotional, when really you just refuse to hold your daughter accountable for being a bully." "Raymond," Mom started. "I found the journal," Dad said quietly. Mom went rigid, actually rigid, like she'd been electrocuted. "What journal?" I asked, looking between them. Dad's eyes never left Mom's face. "Your mother has been keeping a journal for years, since Amy was 17, writing down every time Amy hurt someone, every lie she told, every person she manipulated, dates, details, names of witnesses." My stomach dropped. "What?" "She knew," Dad said. "She always knew. She documented everything because she knew it was wrong. She knew Amy was hurting people, but she never did anything about it. She just kept writing it down and making excuses." "That's private," Mom shrieked, her wine glass shaking in her hand. "You had no right to read my personal journals." "You documented abuse and did nothing," Dad said, his voice rising for the first time. "You chose her cruelty over everyone else's pain, over your son's pain, over your daughter-in-law's pain, over your grandson's pain. You knew and you didn't care." Amy laughed nervously. "This is insane. You're all insane. It's a fucking birthday party. Get over it." Dad turned to look at her, really look at her, and whatever she saw in his face made her stop laughing. Then he reached down to his left hand, to the gold wedding band he'd worn for 40 years, the one that had never come off, even when he'd broken his hand falling off a ladder 15 years ago, and the doctors had to use soap to get it over his swollen knuckles. He twisted it, pulled it. It resisted for a second. 40 years of wear had made it tight, but he kept pulling until it slid off. He held it up so everyone in the room could see it. The gold band, catching the afternoon light streaming through the windows, a symbol of 4 decades of marriage. Then he threw it at Mom's feet. It hit the hardwood floor with a tiny metallic sound and rolled under the couch. The room went absolutely silent. Tyler stopped crying. Sarah stopped breathing. Even Jerry stopped existing for a moment. "Raymond," Mom whispered. The wine glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor, red liquid spreading across the hardwood like blood. What are you doing?" Dad looked at her with eyes full of something I'd never seen before. Not anger, not sadness, just cold, final certainty. The look of a man who'd made a decision and would not be swayed. "I'm done protecting you." you. 4 words, 4 simple words, but they landed like bombs. What? Mom's voice was barely audible. I'm done, Dad repeated. I'm done pretending this is normal. I'm done making excuses for her. He pointed at Amy. I'm done watching you gaslight our family. I'm done choosing you over what's right. He turned to me and his face softened slightly. I've already contacted a lawyer. Mitchell Barnes, Patterson and Barnes Family Law. 23 years specializing in divorce cases. I met with him 3 days ago, Wednesday at 2 p.m. Divorce papers will be filed Monday morning at 9 a.m. when the courthouse opens. Mom made a sound like she'd been punched in the stomach. I've also been compiling evidence, Dad continued, and now he pulled out his own phone. Everything I could find about Amy's behavior over the years. Text messages. I accessed the family phone plan records going back 7 years. Emails. I still have the login to the family email account you set up in 2008. Security footage. He nodded at the video still playing on my phone. I have footage from our home security system going back 18 months. Witness statements. I've been quietly talking to family members and friends who've been hurt by Amy's behavior. 23 people willing to make formal statements. Amy's face had drained of all color. You can't. I can, Dad said calmly. And I am. Everything's being sent to multiple parties starting Monday. Tyler's school. I won't have him in the same building as Amy when she volunteers there claiming to be his loving aunt. Amy's employer. I think HR at Bradshaw Marketing should know about her pattern of manipulation and cruelty, and anyone else who needs to know who she really is. You're going to destroy her life, Mom shouted, finding her voice again. Over some toys? Over a misunderstanding? This isn't about toys, Dad said. This is about 35 years of abuse that you've enabled, excused, and covered up. This is about watching my grandson cry while his gifts were destroyed and his grandmother laughed. This is about my son documenting his sister's cruelty for months because he knew no one would believe him otherwise. This is about you keeping a journal, proving you knew all along and did nothing. He walked over to where Tyler was still clutched in Sarah's arms. Tyler's face was red and puffy, tear-streaked, confused. Can I hold him? Dad asked Sarah gently. She nodded, transferring Tyler to his grandfather's arms. Tyler clung to him immediately, burying his face in Dad's shoulder. I've booked a room at the Sheraton downtown, Dad said to me, stroking Tyler's back. Room 814. I'll be there until I find an apartment. Bring Tyler whenever you're ready. We'll have our own party, a real one, with presents he can actually keep. He started walking toward the door, then stopped, turned back to face Mom. 4 decades, he said softly. 4 decades I waited for you to choose right over easy, to choose protecting victims over protecting Amy, to choose being a good mother over being an enabling mother. You never did, not once in 40 years. He adjusted Tyler in his arms. I've spent the last 3 months documenting everything for the divorce proceedings. Dr. Helen Cartwright, forensic psychologist, has reviewed the journal you kept. She's prepared to testify about parental alienation and emotional abuse. I have financial records showing how much money you've given Amy over the years. $87,000 in the last decade alone. Money from our joint savings that you never told me about. I have text messages between you and Amy planning how to handle Nathan when he complained about her behavior. Mom's legs gave out. She sat down hard on the couch. I have recordings too, Dad continued, from the home security system, audio and video. Every time you told Nathan he was being too sensitive. Every time you told him to just let it go. Every time you gaslit him into thinking he was the problem. 6 years of recordings, all time-stamped, all admissible in court. He looked at Amy one last time. And you're not Tyler's aunt anymore. You're nobody. You don't exist to this family. I'm filing a restraining order on Tyler's behalf tomorrow through his school. You won't be allowed within 500 feet of him. Amy found her voice finally. You can't do that. I have rights. You have no rights to my grandson, Dad said coldly. Judge Christina Ramirez, family court, has already reviewed the preliminary evidence. She's sympathetic to protecting children from destructive family members. The temporary restraining order will be granted Monday, pending a full hearing. Dr. Cartwright's testimony about the pattern of behavior will be compelling. He opened the front door. Cold November air rushed in. One more thing, Dad said, looking at Jerry, at the cousins who'd been silent, at the uncle who'd laughed. Anyone who stays in contact with Margaret or Amy, anyone who enables this behavior to continue, anyone who tells Nathan he's overreacting or should just forgive and forget, you're choosing sides. And if you choose them, you choose to not be part of Tyler's life. Simple as that. Then he walked out, carrying my crying son, leaving my mother sitting on the couch in shock, my sister standing surrounded by broken toys, and a room full of relatives who suddenly understood that something irreversible had just happened. I looked at Mom, at Amy, at Jerry, who'd finally stopped laughing, at my cousins Diane and Robert, who'd been silent observers. Get out of my house, I said. My voice was steady, calm. All of you. Nathan, please, Mom said, tears starting now. We can talk about this. We can fix this. You've had 32 years to fix this. You chose not to. Now get out. But But get out. Sarah moved to the door and held it open. Waited. One by one they filed out. Mom stumbling, crying, mascara running. Amy silent now, her face pale, her hands shaking. Jerry muttering about overreactions. The cousins avoiding eye contact. When the last person was out, Sarah closed the door, locked it, put the chain on. We stood in our destroyed living room. Broken toys everywhere. Shattered glass. Torn wrapping paper. A wine stain spreading across the floor. Is Tyler okay? I asked. Your dad has him. He's safe. Sarah's voice was shaking. Nathan, what just happened? I don't know, I said honestly. But I think my dad just ended his marriage to protect our son. My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. Tyler's okay. We're getting ice cream. Come whenever you're ready. Bring the other presents. The ones Amy didn't destroy. We'll open them together. Another buzz. A different number I didn't recognize. Mr. Hayes, this is Mitchell Barnes, your father's attorney. He's asked me to reach out to you directly. We need to discuss the restraining order against your sister and the evidence you've been collecting. Can you come to my office Monday at 10 a.m.? My paralegal will email you the address. I showed the texts to Sarah. Your dad really did this, she said. He really left her after 40 years. Because of Tyler. Because of you, Sarah corrected. Because he finally saw what your mother has been doing to you your entire life. We started cleaning up, sweeping glass, picking up torn paper, salvaging the presents that could be saved. At 5:23 p.m., my phone rang. Mom. I didn't answer. A voicemail appeared. I listened on speaker. Nathan, please, you have to understand. Amy didn't mean, I know she went too far today, but she's still your sister. And your father, he's not thinking clearly. He's upset, but he'll calm down and realize he's making a mistake. We can fix this. We're family. Family forgives. That's what family does. Please call me back. Please. I deleted it. At 6:47 p.m., Amy texted, you're going to regret this. You've destroyed our family over a few toys. Mom's devastated. Dad's having some kind of breakdown. And for what? Because I made a joke? You're pathetic. I screenshotted it and sent it to Mitchell Barnes's email address that had come through, added it to the evidence folder. At 7:15 p.m., Sarah's parents arrived. They'd been at a wedding and had missed the party. When we told them what happened, Sarah's mother started crying. Not for my mother, for Tyler. That poor baby, she said. On his birthday. How could anyone do that? Easily, I said. When you've been enabled your entire life and never faced consequences. We drove to the Sheraton at 8:30 p.m. Dad had ordered room service. Pizza, chicken tenders, fries, Tyler's favorite foods. He'd also gone to Target and bought replacements for some of the destroyed gifts. A new Lego set, new books, a toy truck. Can we do cake? Tyler asked, his eyes red from crying but brightening at the sight of presents. Absolutely, Dad said. I got a cake from the bakery downstairs. Chocolate with dinosaurs. Sound good? Tyler nodded enthusiastically. We sang Happy Birthday in a hotel room. Tyler blew out candles on a store-bought cake, opened presents without anyone smashing them, laughed at his grandfather's terrible dinosaur impressions. It wasn't the party we'd planned, but it was better, because everyone there actually cared about Tyler, actually wanted him to be happy, actually protected him instead of protecting his abuser. At 10:47 p.m., after Tyler had fallen asleep on the hotel bed, clutching his new T-Rex toy, Dad pulled me aside. I need to show you something, he said quietly. He pulled out his phone and opened a folder. Inside were photos, hundreds of them. Pages from Mom's journal photographed page by page. I started reading. March 15, 2007. Amy told Jessica's friends that Jessica was sleeping with her boyfriend. Wasn't true. Jessica tried to confront Amy, but Amy denied it. Jessica lost all her friends. Amy laughed about it. October 3rd, 2009. Amy stole money from her roommate's wallet, $200. Roommate accused her, but Amy blamed another girl in the dorm. Other girl got kicked out of school. Amy bought herself new shoes with the money. June 12, 2012. Amy sabotaged Nathan's job interview by calling the company pretending to be a reference and giving a bad review. Nathan didn't get the job. Amy told me she did it because she was jealous of his degree. November 8, 2015. Amy destroyed Nathan's college thesis on purpose. Spilled coffee on his laptop. He had to rewrite 40 pages in 2 weeks. Barely graduated on time. Amy said it was an accident, but I saw her smile after. Page after page, year after year, detailed documentation of cruelty, and at the bottom of every entry in my mother's handwriting, talk to Amy. She promises she'll be better. I'm sure it was just a misunderstanding. She knew, I whispered, the whole time. She's known since Amy was 17, Dad said. I found the first journal in her closet when I was packing to leave. Then I found 6 more, spanning 18 years, every cruel thing documented, every victim named, and every time she did nothing except tell Amy to be better. Why didn't you ever say anything? Because I didn't know, Dad said, and his voice cracked. She hid them, kept them locked in a box in her closet. I only found them because I was packing my things to leave and the box fell. When I started reading, I couldn't stop. I spent 6 hours going through all of them. 18 years of evidence that she knew exactly who Amy was and chose to to protect her anyway. What are you going to do with them? Dr. Cartwright has copies. So does Mitchell Barnes. And now you do. They're evidence of knowing, willful enablement of abuse. In the divorce, they'll show a pattern of choosing Amy over everyone else, including you. In the restraining order case, they'll show documented evidence that Amy has been a danger to others for nearly 2 decades. He closed the folder. Your mother made her choice a long time ago, Nathan. Today, she just had to face the consequences. And I had to face that I've been complicit by staying with her, by letting her gaslight you, by not protecting you sooner. His eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry. I should have done this years ago. Dad, I watched her destroy you growing up, watched her make excuses for Amy, while you were the one who got in trouble for reacting to Amy's cruelty. I told myself it would get better, that you'd grow up and move out and be free of it, but then you had Tyler, and I watched it start again, watched her excuse Amy's behavior toward Tyler, and I realized it would never stop unless I stopped. I hugged him, this 70-year-old man who'd just blown up his entire life to protect his grandson. Thank you, I said. Monday morning at 10 a.m., I sat in Mitchell Barnes's office. He was 56, gray hair, wire-frame glasses, a wall full of legal degrees and certifications. Next to me was Sarah. Across the desk was Dr. Helen Cartwright, the forensic psychologist Dad had mentioned. Let's review what we have, Mitchell said, pulling out a thick folder. Your father's divorce case is straightforward. 40 years of documented emotional abuse and financial deception. The journals alone are damning. Add in the evidence you've collected, he gestured to my phone, and we have an ironclad case. What about the restraining order against Amy? Sarah asked. That's where Dr. Cartwright comes in, Mitchell said. Dr. Cartwright leaned forward. She was maybe 60, with kind eyes, but a serious expression. I've reviewed all the documentation, the journals, the text messages, the security footage, the witness statements your father collected. From a psychological standpoint, Amy displays a clear pattern of antisocial behavior with narcissistic traits. The destruction of Tyler's gifts isn't an isolated incident. It's part of a long-term pattern of intentional cruelty. Will a judge grant the restraining order? I asked. Almost certainly, she said. Judge Ramirez is excellent at protecting children from toxic family members. With this level of documentation, I'd be shocked if she denied it. The temporary order will be granted immediately. The permanent order hearing will be in 2 weeks, but Amy would have to provide compelling evidence that she's not a danger to Tyler. Given her pattern of behavior, that's essentially impossible. What about my mother? I asked. She's going to fight this. Let her, Mitchell said. Every time she contacts you, screenshot it. Every voicemail, save it. Every text, document it. The more she harasses you, the stronger your father's divorce case becomes. We're arguing that she prioritized Amy over everyone else for decades, including you and Tyler. The more she defends Amy now, the more she proves our point. Over the next 2 weeks, that's exactly what happened. Mom called 17 times, left 13 voicemails, sent 48 text messages, all begging me to understand, to forgive, to remember that family is forever. I documented everything, sent it all to Mitchell. Amy sent 23 text messages, ranging from apologetic, I'm sorry, I went too far, please let me make it up to Tyler, to threatening, you're going to regret ruining my relationship with my nephew. I'll make sure everyone knows what a vindictive asshole you are, to desperate. Mom's a mess. Dad's destroying her. All over your overreaction. How can you live with yourself? I documented everything. Sent it all to Mitchell. My Uncle Jerry called once to tell me I was tearing the family apart and that real men forgive. I hung up on him and added his number to my blocked list. 3 cousins reached out with variations of, this is awkward, but I'm supporting Margaret and Amy because they're family. I thanked them for clarifying where they stood and told them they wouldn't be hearing from me again. 2 cousins reached out to say they'd witnessed Amy's behavior for years and were willing to provide statements if needed. I connected them with Mitchell Barnes. Sarah's family circled wagons around us. Her parents, her siblings, her aunts and uncles, they made it clear that we were supported. Tyler was protected, and anyone who had a problem with that could take it up with Sarah's father, a gentleman who'd never raised his voice in his life, but who told his brother-in-law, my Uncle Jerry, to go to hell when Jerry called to complain. The restraining order hearing was on November 27th, 11 days after Tyler's destroyed birthday party. Amy showed up with a lawyer, a young guy in an expensive suit who clearly didn't know what he was getting into. Mom was there too, sitting behind Amy, looking like she'd aged 10 years. Judge Christina Ramirez, 54 years old, 22 years on the bench, reviewed the evidence in silence for 15 minutes before speaking. Ms. Hayes, she said to Amy, I've reviewed the security footage, the text messages, the witness statements, and the journal entries documenting your behavior toward your nephew and others. I've also reviewed Dr. Cartwright's psychological assessment. Amy's lawyer stood up. Your Honor, my client admits she made an error in judgment at the birthday party, but an error in judgment, Judge Ramirez repeated flatly. Is that what we're calling the deliberate destruction of a child's birthday? birthday presents while he cried. It was a momentary lapse. A momentary lapse doesn't explain the pattern of behavior documented over 18 years, the judge said. The destroyed cake at his first birthday, the lies told about his father, the manipulation of his grandmother to enable abuse. This isn't a momentary lapse. This is a pattern of intentional cruelty. She looked at Amy. The temporary restraining order is hereby made permanent. Amy Hayes is prohibited from coming within 500 feet of Tyler Hayes, from contacting him directly or indirectly, from attending any school or extracurricular activities where he is present, and from communicating about him on social media. This order is effective immediately and will remain in effect until Tyler turns 18 unless modified by this court. Amy's face crumpled. But he's my nephew. He's a child who needs protection from someone who deliberately hurts him, Judge Ramirez said. The evidence is overwhelming. The journal entries alone are damning. Your own mother documented your cruel behavior for 18 years and did nothing. That's not love. That's enabling abuse. She signed the order. Next case. Outside the courtroom, Amy was crying. Mom was trying to comfort her. They didn't look at us. Dad was waiting in the hallway. He'd attended the hearing, but sat in the back. When we came out, he hugged me. It's done, he said. She can't hurt Tyler again. The divorce finalized 3 months later. Dad got the house. Judge Ramirez ruled that Mom's financial deception, giving Amy $87,000 without Dad's knowledge, and emotional abuse warranted an unequal division of assets. Dad also got his full pension, his retirement accounts, and the car. Mom got her retirement account and enough money to rent an apartment. No alimony. The documented enabling of abuse and financial deception eliminated that. Amy lost her job at Bradshaw Marketing. Someone, I never found out who, sent the company copies of the journal entries showing her pattern of manipulation and cruelty. HR determined she was a liability risk and terminated her employment. She moved in with Mom. Last I heard, they're both living in a 2-bedroom apartment in the suburbs, Amy working retail, Mom working as a receptionist. They tell anyone who'll listen that they're the victims, that Dad and I destroyed their family, that we're cruel and unforgiving. Most people don't listen. Most people have seen the evidence, heard the stories, made up their own minds. 6 months after Tyler's birthday, we had another party, a do-over, at a park this time with all of Tyler's friends, Sarah's family, my dad, and the cousins who'd reached out to support us. Tyler blew out candles on a dinosaur cake, opened presents that no one destroyed, played on the playground until he was exhausted and happy. Dad brought him a special present, a photo album with pictures from throughout Tyler's life. Every birthday, every holiday, every milestone. So you always remember, Dad said, that you're loved, really loved, by people who would never hurt you, who would protect you from anyone who tried. Tyler hugged him. I love you, Grandpa. I love you too, kiddo. That night, after Tyler was asleep, I found Dad sitting on our back porch. He looked older now, more tired, but somehow lighter too, less burdened. Do you regret it? I asked. Leaving her? Ending a 40-year marriage? He thought for a long time. No, he said finally. I regret not doing it sooner. I regret letting you grow up thinking you were the problem. I regret not protecting you the way I should have. But leaving her, standing up for Tyler, that's the best thing I've done in years. She calls me sometimes, I said. Leaves voicemails. What does she say? That I'm keeping her from her grandson. That she's sorry but I'm overreacting. That Amy's changed and deserves another chance. That you've brainwashed me. And what do you think? I think some people are more committed to being right than to being good. I think some people will protect their favorite child even when that child is destroying everyone around them. I think some people can't be fixed because they don't think they're broken. Dad nodded, slowly. Your grandmother, my mother, used to say something. You can't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. Your mother spent 4 decades doing exactly that with Amy, setting everyone else on fire to keep Amy warm. And when I finally said no more, when I finally chose you and Tyler over her comfort, she acted like I was the villain. Are you happy? I asked. He smiled. It was a sad smile, but genuine. Happier than I've been in 20 years. I wake up every morning and don't have to watch someone I love get hurt and make excuses for it. That's worth the price of admission. A year after Tyler's destroyed birthday party, he turned 6. We had a small party at home with close friends and family. Dad was there, of course. Sarah's family, the cousins who'd stood by us. Tyler opened presents carefully, savoring each one. Halfway through, he stopped and looked at me. Daddy, is Aunt Amy going to break my presents? My heart broke a little. No, buddy, she's not here, and she's never going to hurt your presents again. Good. He went back to opening gifts. Later, Sarah found me in the kitchen. He asked me the same thing last week, she said quietly, when we were shopping for party supplies. He asked if Aunt Amy was invited. When I said no, he looked relieved. He's 6 years old, and he's relieved that his aunt isn't coming to his birthday party because he's afraid she'll destroy his things. I know. That's what Mom enabled. That's what she protected for 18 years. A person who makes children afraid. And your dad stopped it, Sarah said. He blew up his entire life to stop stop it. That's love, Nathan. Real love. Not the twisted version your mother calls love. I thought about that. About the difference between real love and the performance of love. About protecting the comfortable lie versus facing the uncomfortable truth. Yeah, I said. That's real love. 2 years after the birthday party destruction, Dad came over for Sunday dinner. He'd been dating someone, a widow named Patricia, who laughed easily and didn't make excuses for bad behavior. They seemed happy. Tyler was 7 now, thriving in 2nd grade, doing well in soccer. He still had nightmares sometimes about his 5th birthday, but less frequently. His therapist, Dr. Raymond Keller, child psychologist, 12 years specializing in family trauma, said that was normal and improving. "How's your mother?" Dad asked as we did dishes after dinner. He always asked, even though he'd made it clear he had no intention of reconciling, still calling occasionally, still sending cards on holidays, still insisting she's the victim. And Amy? No idea. I have her blocked everywhere. Last I heard from someone, she'd moved to Seattle, working as a bartender, still blaming everyone else for her problems. Dad was quiet for a moment. Then, "Do you think she'll ever change?" "No," I said, because she'd have to admit she was wrong first, and people like Amy never admit they're wrong. It's always someone else's fault. Someone else overreacted. Someone else didn't understand. Your mother's the same way. I know. He dried the last plate and set it in the cabinet. You did good, you know, protecting Tyler, documenting everything, standing up to them when it would have been easier to just let it go. You did good too, I said, taking off that wedding ring, walking out, filing for divorce. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did, he said simply, because some things are more important than 40 years of history. Some things matter more than avoiding conflict, and my grandson being safe matters more than my wife's feelings. That night, after Dad left, after Tyler was asleep, after Sarah had gone to bed, I sat in our living room, in the same spot where 2 years ago, my sister had destroyed my son's birthday presents while my family laughed. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. I almost deleted it, but something made me open it. "Nathan, this is Mom. I got a new phone because you blocked my old number. I just want to say that I've been thinking about what happened, about what Dad said, about the journals he found. I know you probably won't believe me, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry I chose Amy over you. I'm sorry I made excuses. I'm sorry I didn't protect you. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. What I did, what I enabled, and I'm sorry. I read it 3 times, then I deleted it. Because some apologies come too late, some damage can't be undone, some relationships can't be salvaged, and some people deserve to live with the consequences of their choices. I blocked the new number and went to bed, sleeping soundly in a house where my son was safe, my wife was happy, and the people who'd hurt us couldn't reach us anymore. That was enough. More than enough. That was everything.